I want to tell you a story about a man you probably know, not his name or his face, but his pattern. He was kind, generous, always did the right thing, held the door open, remembered birthdays, listened patiently, gave her everything she asked for, and then slowly, without warning, she pulled away. No more long texts, no more sparkle in her eyes. Conversations became shorter, her smile became rarer, and one day he woke up and she was gone. He never raised his voice, never crossed a line, never stopped loving her, and yet it wasn't enough. Or maybe it was too much. Because what if I told you the very traits he thought would make her stay were the same ones that pushed her away? This isn't just about one man. This is about a pattern I've seen in thousands of relationships, and one I set out to understand deeply. Why do so many kind, respectful, emotionally available men get rejected, ghosted, or overlooked? Why do the very men who treat women with care so often get punished? And what I found will shift how you see everything. Because this isn't about being nice or mean, it's not about game or pickup lines or alpha status. This is about psychology. This is about how human attraction actually works beneath the surface. Not what people say they want, but what they respond to. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. So let me show you something most people never notice. I call it the attraction gap. And it begins with a simple misunderstanding. Most nice guys believe relationships are about fairness, about balance. If I give love, I should receive love. If I'm kind, I'll be treated with kindness. If I give her certainty, she'll stay. But human desire doesn't work that way, because love is not a transaction, and attraction is not earned through good behavior. It's pulled, not pushed. And here's where it gets even more complex. When a man is overly available, overly eager, overly self-sacrificing, it creates a subtle imbalance in the dynamic, a feeling deep in her subconscious that he needs her more than she needs him, that he's seeking approval, that he fears loss, that he is emotionally dependent. And the more he tries to reassure her, the less secure she feels. That's the paradox. Because when someone is too focused on being liked, they often lose the very edge that creates tension. And tension is the fuel of desire. Now, here's where it gets psychologically deeper. Have you ever wondered why some women chase emotionally unavailable men? It's not because they enjoy pain, it's because the mystery creates mental engagement. See, the brain doesn't crave what's easy, it craves what's stimulating. And stimulation comes from tension, contrast, uncertainty. Think about every great movie you've ever seen, every page-turning novel, every addictive show. They don't give you answers, they give you questions. Curiosity loops, and relationships work the same way. But here's the moment that changed how I saw it all. I was reading a psychological study about child attachment patterns, and in it they observed something strange. Children didn't become most emotionally attached to the parent who was always soft and agreeable. They became most attached to the parent who was warm, but unpredictable. Why? Because the child kept mentally checking in, trying to understand how to earn their attention. It created emotional investment. Now, I want to be very clear. I am not saying unpredictability is good. In fact, it can be deeply unhealthy. But what I am saying is this: the human brain equates emotional stimulation with importance. And when a man is nice in a way that is overly predictable, overly generous without boundaries, overly emotionally accommodating, he becomes safe. But not in the good way, in the forgettable way. His presence becomes expected. His attention becomes unearned. His affection becomes a background noise, and that is when the punishment begins. Not consciously, not out of cruelty, but out of a loss of polarity. She pulls away not because he's unkind, but because the invisible tension that makes love feel alive has dissolved. And this is where the second pattern shows up. Nice men often hide their desires, their anger, their frustration, their boundaries. They think suppressing discomfort will make them more lovable, but what it actually does is make them invisible. See, when you erase your edges to fit someone else's expectations, you don't become a better partner. You become a shadow of yourself. And shadows don't attract light. It's not kindness that gets punished. It's self-abandonment in the name of kindness. And here's what's even more painful. Many of these men aren't pretending. They're genuinely trying to love well. But what they don't realize is that healthy love doesn't come from being needed. It comes from being wanted, from two whole people choosing each other freely. But when you make someone your entire source of worth, they feel it, and they begin to retreat. So let me pause here and ask you a question. Have you ever been in a relationship where the more you gave, the less you were appreciated? Where the more you tried to be perfect, the more you felt taken for granted? That's not because love is broken. It's because real intimacy begins where performance ends. And most nice men, they're performing without realizing it. Not in a manipulative way, but in a deeply psychological one. They're trying to earn love by being agreeable. But love doesn't grow where there's no friction, no authenticity, no realness. And realness means being fully human, with desires, opinions, limits, and yes, even the occasional no. Here's something wild. In those 1,000 viral video outliers I studied, the ones that really resonated with audiences, they didn't just teach information. They made people feel seen. And when I dug deeper, the ones that went the most viral, they created psychological tension. They opened a loop, just like relationships. So if you're a man watching this, or if you've loved one, you need to know. The world doesn't need you to be less kind, but it does need you to be more truthful. Because suppressed truth always leaks. And over time, what begins as quiet resentment becomes emotional numbness or explosive breakups. You don't have to stop being nice, but you do have to stop abandoning yourself. That's the line between being respected and being forgotten. And here's where it gets even more real. Most men who fall into this pattern, they didn't choose it. They were taught it, taught to avoid conflict, to please others, to be strong and soft at the same time, but never too much of either. They were taught that love is something you earn through goodness. But love, real love, can't be earned. It has to be witnessed. And you can't be witnessed while hiding. So if you've ever wondered why it feels like you're punished for being nice, maybe the real question is, who told you that being lovable meant never showing your teeth? Because sometimes the most loving thing you can do is stop disappearing to make someone else comfortable. That's when you stop being a nice guy and you start being a whole man. And that is where the second half of the story begins. Let me take you to the moment it all clicks. The moment the nice guy finally begins to wake up. It usually doesn't happen through some grand epiphany. It happens in quiet disillusionment. A woman walks away, and he doesn't understand why. He replays every moment, wonders what he did wrong, wonders if maybe, just maybe, being kind was a mistake. He starts to question if the world only rewards those who play games, who withhold, who act like they don't care. But that's not the answer either. Because resentment disguised as confidence is still weakness, and bitterness disguised as strength is still fear. So where does he go? This is the place where many men begin to feel lost, trapped between two extremes. Be too soft and they get walked on. Be too hard and they push people away. But there's a third path, one that very few talk about. But the moment you see it, you begin to feel it everywhere. It's the path of integrated masculinity. A man who is kind and boundaried, soft and solid, generous, but not at the expense of his truth. This man doesn't fear being disliked, because he knows love that demands his silence isn't love, it's control. And here's what happens when a man steps into this version of himself. Women don't pull away, they lean in, not because he's playing a role, not because he's doing the right things, but because he is no longer afraid to be seen. He doesn't give to be appreciated. He gives because it's an extension of who he is. And if it's not reciprocated, he doesn't beg. He lets go. That's power. That's presence. That's the quiet gravity women feel, even if they can't explain it. It's not that kindness is unattractive. It's that conditional kindness is. The kind that gives, hoping to receive. The kind that flatters, hoping to be chosen. The kind that says, if I do enough, you'll finally love me. That's not love, that's fear. And fear never creates attraction, it repels it. But when a man embodies kindness from strength, not from insecurity, everything changes. He becomes the rarest type of man. The one who listens but doesn't fold. The one who gives but never chases. The one who loves but never forgets his own worth in the process. And you can feel this difference. It's in his body language, in his tone, in the way he speaks slowly, calmly, without trying to prove. It's in the way he looks at you with presence, not with need, because he's not performing anymore. He's simply being. And that stillness is magnetic. But here's the loop you didn't see coming. Most men won't get there. Not because they can't, but because they refuse to confront the part of themselves that still believes love must be earned through sacrifice.